Hey guys. Or guy, I think there's one human. How's it going? Just gonna wait for some more people to show up. This is gonna be our last of our set of plant things. So I'm excited about that. It's currently like, hi Amy. It's currently like the real feel is like 105 here right now, Fahrenheit, and I'm really hot. Really hot. Hey Miranda. Oh gosh, you know what? Remember how last week I said I was running out of all of my paint? Ask me if I bought more because I didn't. So hopefully I have enough to get me through this painting. I'm sure I do. I'm sure it's fine. I've got all these little guys. We'll be fine. See, this is what I don't understand. I mean, I get it, like from an intelligence perspective, from like a geographical perspective. I don't understand how it's 100-degree heat index in Connecticut, but also in Tennessee. Like, we're over 1,000 miles south. Well, actually, I guess it's diagonal, so maybe it's, I don't know. Anyway, that's crazy to me. Okay, so if you're just joining us for the first time, or you haven't been around in the past couple weeks, we've been doing this set of plant life. So you'll see that my canvas is already painted pink because I want it to match all of the other pieces that we did the past 2 weeks. So if you have been doing it but you didn't paint your background yet, pause me and go paint your background and then come back. Your background, you can have it be where they're all the same color, or you can have them be different colors. It's totally up to you. I made them as a set, technically. So I just did them all at the same time. Hello, friends. Okay. So this one's kind of cool because I don't know what it is. I mean, it could be a lot of things. You can add, and I'll show you like as we go what you can add if you want to make it look like specifically maybe like aloe. I think they would have some like pointy areas. It could be the top of a pineapple. It could be whatever you want, just some general plant life. I don't know anything about botany. So if there is a specific plant that maybe, grew outside of your home growing up that kind of sort of looks like this, but you want to do it exactly like that and you want to pull up a reference picture, go for it. I just completely freehanded this. And I think that's kind of fun. And I think that's why I did this one, because the other ones were a little bit more specific. And this one is just kind of like loosey-goosey, and you'll see what you get when you're done. So what I'm going to need is, or what you're going to need too, white paint. I did not use any black in any of these 3 paintings. I mentioned that last week, but I personally didn't use any black. If you feel like you want to use black, that's up to you, but I chose not to because I liked the like kind of lack of contrast happening. So you'll need white paint. You will need blue paint and yellow paint. And you can also use green paint if you have it. I'm going to give myself a little bit of green paint just because I'm running so low on, well, apparently I'm running low on green too. But I'm running so low on my blues and yellows that I want to supplement with a little green. If you have it, awesome. If not, no big deal. So I'm going to get my yellow down to the wire on that one. So you see how like I have all different shades of yellow. This one has a lot of white in it. This one has no white in it. It doesn't matter. You can play around with whatever you've got. I think that one is done. Let's see if I can get any blue out here. As far as the type of brush you need or should use, that is going to be really up to you. Particularly if you've done a bunch of these classes now, I think you would like kind of know what you feel comfortable using. I personally am going to use, I haven't used this one Maybe I'll try this one. This is a weird shape brush. It's like kind of flat. So see how it's like flat here, and then you turn it and it gets skinnier, as opposed to my round brushes. Sorry, I'm like very distracted today. Please hold. Pretty much what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter what brush you use. I like the idea of making it look like aloe. Yeah. So whatever brush you feel like you can make these like smooth kind of lines with. So I've introduced you guys to my Spencer type brushes, which are these, see how I'm turning it and it looks the same. It's a round brush, so it looks the same width everywhere. This brush I haven't used yet. And it's kind of like flat and skinny, but it comes to a point. So I'm curious how that one works. I might play around with that, or I might just use my biggest Spencer brush. It's totally up to you. If you only have a brush like this, go for it. You're just gonna have to play around and see how your brush strokes work and what you like and what you don't. And that's kind of fun. I do the same thing when I do my makeup. I don't know what brushes are for what. I just use whatever makes the makeup go on. Okay. Oh, and we're gonna need a little bit of red too. Just a little bit. We're gonna mix that in with our green and our blue and kind of make a deep purple for our shadows. All right, so now, if you want to grab some chalk or something and kind of guesstimate where you want to put things, you can. That's totally valid. I kind of like to just go with the flow. What I do recommend though is I recommend starting lighter. So I'm going to take, oh, and same things you always need. You're going to need something to dry your brushes on, something to rinse your brushes in, something to put your paint on. You know the jam already. So I like to start lighter and get darker as we go forward. I know that seems like maybe counterintuitive because darker things are usually further away. Like that's kind of how our brain works, but it's actually not. If you've ever looked at, I don't know if I've done one with you guys yet, but if you've ever looked at like paintings or pictures even of like mountainscapes, the mountains that are further away are like hazier and lighter because you're not getting as much visual reference for them. So in general, things that are like the same color but further away, we like to make lighter because it's like off in the distance, if that makes sense. I know it's just a plant, so it's not very far enough in the distance. But anyway, I'm going to make a light green. Oh, this blue is not good for this. Okay. This blue, what blue is this? Ultramarine blue is making a really ugly green. It'll probably make a really good purple when I mix it, but it's making like a really muddy green. Actually, that's not bad. It's like, I don't know if you could tell, but it's not a nice, bright, vibrant green, but that's okay. Everybody's green is gonna be different. So I'm gonna start with a lighter shade here. And I'm just gonna kind of like go for it. So maybe, and you can run off the page, you can run off your canvas. It doesn't have to, it could do it in a couple places, but not everywhere. It's really up to you. I'm just gonna say, there's gonna be one there. And you can mess around with this first layer of color before we move on to the next layer. And I'll show you what I mean. Caitlin, what brand of paint do you usually use? I have zero preference. If I paid attention, I probably would care. I honestly, I just get whatever's on sale. I would say I generally go for the Liquitex Basics, but this Artist Loft brand, which I think is like the Michaels brand is usually cheaper, but I even have the littles of the Liquitex Basics. There are definitely better paints in this world, but I just don't see the full need for it. I'm sure if I were like a paint brat and I worked with all the really, really expensive paints, I'd be like, oh God, I can never go back. But I'm fine with the cheap paint. And paint is not cheap. So like even the cheap paint is, you know, like something like this is going to be like $10, $11. So, okay. So what I mean by you can play around with these as you go is so I just did one there and it kind of just looks like a blade of grass. Like it's nothing special. But then maybe I'm going to add one that goes like that. And if you were around when we painted trees, you know that these kinds of things that branch off of each other should be like armpits, not elbows. So we don't want like 90-degree angles. We want like letter Y's where it goes in gently. So as you're playing around with this, and I'm purposely not mixing a lot of one color because I want there to be all sorts of different colors happening. But we're still going to stick with lighter for here. So I added that guy, and now I want to kind of bulk this up. So I'm going to kind of make it a little thicker here where they join together. And see how there's already two colors happening? Love it. Awesome. And then I want to kind of thicken this up here. Now, all of your little, they're not branches, leaves will generally want to be like, they taper. So they're going to be a little thicker toward the base, and they're going to get skinnier and skinnier. And then you can come back and you can make them pointy. They don't have to be super pointy like blades of grass. Now, I think, without a reference image, if you're wanting it to look more like aloe, I think, without looking, I think it would have to have like little kind of points like that. So just a little bit there, a little bit there. I'm not sure if you can see that. But I feel like little teeny tiny subtle little V's getting added on there would make it look more like aloe. And I think it would be on both sides. But again, you don't have to. I didn't do it in that one. It's just whatever you like. So I'm gonna paint over that. I'm gonna keep it smooth on mine. Now, the reason I like to incorporate all different colors, and the reason why this one is kind of fun to just go with the flow, is because we need something at some point that will separate all of these like layers. Got a ton of different colors happening right now. So you want like your lighter colors. I'm going to do like maybe 3 or 4 of these lighter colored ones. So let's get some more paint going here. And then maybe I'll do a big one here. And there can be all different widths. And honestly, it's super subtle, so I don't know if you could see it, but I just grabbed more yellow, and you see how there's just that subtle variation in some colors in your same plane of leaves. So if we're talking about planes, like there's going to be a background set of leaves, which are going to be the lightest, and then like a middle-ish ground, which will be like a little bit darker, and then the most close to you leaves, which will be the darkest. So you still can have a whole bunch of color variation in this same plane. And this is really like, this looks like a very basic painting. And it is. I mean, it is a basic painting, but this is where you really get to play and kind of like figure out how to like not shade and shadow, because we did a whole bunch of shading and shadowing with the cactus, but it's more like, how do I take this thing that's just green, like all these leaves are just green, and how do I make them different and special, and how do I separate them? And there's a bunch of different answers to that, and we're going to explore some of them, hopefully. So, oops, I made this guy real thick. Okay, he's going to go off the canvas because I made him a little too thick. All right, and then let's say, oh, here's a fun one, and we're going to do a bunch of this. I'm going to have this one kind of cross. So now you have the issue of, oh gosh, these leaves are the same color and they cross over each other. How do I separate that? I'll show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to decide which one is in front. And I think I kind of like this wiggly guy to be in front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit, maybe just to make the back one a slightly different color. So whatever that is for you, maybe that's grabbing a little more blue, maybe it's grabbing a little more yellow. I'm just going to add a little bit of a different shade to this back one. And yes, I am now painting in front of the one I just said is in front, but it's fine. So I'm just making that a little bit of a different color, okay? Then you can wash your brush if you want because you have that different color in there. Honestly, I don't do a whole bunch of brush washing with this painting because it's all green. As long as you're not overloading your paintbrush and you have like a ton of extra of a color that you don't want to continue using, you really don't have to wash your brush that often. Now, I'm going to go back to that color, that lighter color, or that slightly different color that I had for here. I'm going to put that back in front. So I'm just going right over it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of white on my brush, on my dirty brush. It's got that light green in there. I'm just going to take a little bit of white. Perhaps you want to take a little bit of yellow instead. I'll show you that on another one. But for me, I'm going to take white. And I'm just going to kind of accent this guy. And he'll still be wet, so it should blend in a little bit. But now, even though, here, I'll show you. So you see how on this side, there's less difference. You could see them, that they're different because this one we made a little bit of a different color. But you can really tell that it's different because of this highlight, or that it's in front. So just little things like that are going to make all the difference. Where did I put my brush? Am I losing my mind? I think I am. It's okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so I think that's probably good for my lighter leaves. And now also something to keep in mind is that my darker leaves, as they get darker, they're also going to get like shorter. So I want to have like some fun empty space, negative space to work with. So I'm not going to fill all this up. Now I'm going to mix a different shade of green. For me, this one, I'm going to use the actual green paint that I have because I want something different. And you can doctor it with some yellow. Wow, this is a really intense color. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so now we're painting in front of things again. And I'm just going to say, there's one right there. Now the ultimate goal is that all of this is going to be filled in, and how wide you make the base of your leaves is going to be totally up to you. Get this a little darker. Okay. And then I'm going to do one there. And remember, there still can be variation. So I'm mixing some more blue in this one. There's something really important. There's a difference between like color change and value change. So you could have multiple different like shades and values of the same, not of the same color, of different colors. And you're just like creating as you go. Don't be afraid. It's really kind of a nice little brain exercise here. I'm going to start to make some different like shapes and thicknesses. So now we've got these two that are touching, and we've got to separate these two. And they are kind of different colors, but they're pretty similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some blue on my dirty green brush, and I'm going to just pull it along the bottom edge of this guy right here. I decided he's going to be in front. And so I'm doing the underneath with the blue because in general, shadows kind of go underneath. So I'm going to choose to do that. To kind of separate them. Then you can blend it in as much or as little as you want. If you want like the really stripy vibe, you don't have to blend it. And I'm gonna do, let's see here. And they don't all need to have like a ton of attention paid to them. Sometimes you could just have like a little guy right there. And maybe that's it. Like he's just gonna kind of live and exist there. Get some of this value going over here. And you'll probably end up covering up all of the light green that you've got going on down at the bottom, and it'll just kind of poke out the back here. And do not be afraid to have them cross over each other. That is a thing that would happen in nature. Your leaves are not going to grow separately. They grow separately, you know what I mean. Sometimes I listen to myself talk and I'm like, what was I even trying to say there? Okay, I'm taking that. Now, again, don't forget or don't feel like you shouldn't add variation to these. So there's a whole bunch of ones crisscrossing here, and there's some variation there, but I want to kind of separate them. So I'm going to put some yellow in that guy right toward the top so that it's kind of like a highlight. But by not over mixing your colors, like by not using the same exact mixture of color for each leaf, you're going to naturally get some separation. And now I did the yellow there. Let me add some yellow in one other place just so that it's not out of place here. Let's get some yellow in that guy maybe. Okay. And now I want to add some white like I did because this one is kind of really standing out to me. I want some white to happen elsewhere. So where can I add some white? I can add some white to this guy. And now there's lots of white on this side, so let's get some white going over here. And it doesn't even have to be for separation purposes. It can just be a highlight. It can just be like, oh, there's something going on there. You can even add it to the one that maybe you highlighted with the yellow. There's really no wrong here. We just want these leaves to all be kind of like coexisting and separating, and it's just doing its own thing. And I think I'm going to go back. Now, it's always risky going back into your further back layer, your first plane, but I want some highlight here. So I'm gonna add a little bit. And it's risky because it may not go with the ones that you've already done, or you may cover up what you've already done. So, which is what's happening here. But that's okay, because look, I'm just gonna add this color in because I like this one better. And this is gonna happen. You're gonna, like, as you progress, you're gonna be like, oh, why did I do that? I don't like that. I wanna change that. It's fine. So, I'm going and paying a little bit more attention to this guy, and I'm painting over this friend that we had going on here. But it's okay. Because once we're done paying attention to this one back here and we're happy with it, then we can go, and you can wash your brush if you want. I just really hate washing my brush, and I kind of like just playing with color. So I just like to play with what's on my brush. So I'm gonna go back into this guy and put him back in front here. Now by doing that, it's like a cascade, it's a domino effect. By going back this way and putting this guy back in front, now he's also in front of some of these that maybe I didn't intend him to be. But it's okay, because they're all different colors. So here, I'll show you. So this friend is now in front of these guys, which I had painted in front last time. But because I went back in and created new shades, you can still tell them all apart. So it's fine. As long as all of your different leaves are not kind of all blending in together, it's all good. And now I put my brush in the water, so I gotta wash it. So you can use your yellow or your white or a combination of both, or a combination of those colors plus the green on your brush. You could use that to separate and to highlight. I showed you a little bit here where you could use some blue. I'm going to do a little more of that. So I don't, like right here where I painted over, it kind of lost some of its separation. So I am going to just add some blue back in here. And you can play around with the shape of your leaves too. Okay. And then I'm going to add some to this guy right here. And this guy has a highlight and a shadow. That's fine. Okay, so now I want to do some darker. And for me, I think that's going to mean I'm going to grab more of my green because I'm not loving this blue, but I'm going to mix the blue into the green. This ultramarine blue that I have, it's not my favorite shade of blue because it leans a little more purple. So I'm going to grab my green paint, and if you don't have green paint, it's fine. You can still mix whatever you've got going. But I'm going to mix this blue into this green and make a darker green. See how that's a little bit darker? I love that shade. It's just like a dark teal. And here's where this is going to kind of be like, I don't want to say the last plane, but this is like the last layer that you're working with. This is where you could really play with shape and where you can really play with like intersecting. So right here, there's like a lot of different leaves going on, and they're kind of the same color, and you're kind of sort of losing like directionality and difference. So I'm going to take some of my darker, and I'm just going to put one right in front there, just to break it up. Because it was just getting a little monotonous there for me. And I wanted to change. Now I just really like to play with shape with this like front layer because that's where it'll really stand out and where you can really see it. So let's get some more little guys over here. And like I said, they'll get a little shorter as you go forward. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to get skinnier or smaller, just shorter. So this guy's really skinny. I'm going to make him fatter. And let's do like a dramatic little guy. Cool, cool. I'm digging it. Okay. And I want some more in the front here. So I'm really just playing around now. And I think I want one like right here. Oh, it looks cool. Okay. Once you got the general like full lush vibe going, now we have to kind of break this up. We've got to add something. There's going to be more white. But because we've got this darker shade of green, when you add white to it, it's going to create a whole nother color, another color that we haven't really used yet. So anytime you're taking like all different shades of green, when you add white to it, or even when you add more yellow to it, it's going to change it differently than if you added white or yellow to the prior shade, which is kind of fun. You're getting all these different colors. Some of my paints keep drying out, but I don't want to make it watery. What should I do? I use water. So if you're saying like to blend on here, or if you're saying on your palette, either way, honestly, water is fine. It just helps it move. I wouldn't like pour water on it. I would dip, if you ever see me like dip my brush in here and then kind of like smush it on here, that's what I'm doing. I'm just using some water to kind of make it smoother, because that does happen. So I just grabbed, I have this like darker teal that I'm working with, which was the result of me mixing green paint and blue paint to get this darker shade. And I just grabbed some white on my brush, and I'm just going to highlight a bit. And you can always go back into the dark teal if that's too light for you, and you can kind of blend that and soften that out. I'm gonna add some of that here. And I know that you're like, but wait, why are you lightening this front layer that you said has to be darker? It's even the darkest black object can have a highlight. So even if this front layer was black instead of green, whoops, you could still add a highlight. And as you're going through and highlighting these, you may end up changing their shape a little bit, just for whatever makes you happy. Also, I was trying to shade a darker leaf, but I accidentally made it too late, and it's lighter than the background ones. That's fine. You're gonna see here how like some of these are going to end up being like this and this are probably just as light, but it has to do with like the different shades of green you're using. So as long as you like worked your way forward and then you're highlighting, it will work, I promise. And you don't have to put a highlight on every leaf. Let's see, I want a little bit more highlight over here. Let's get this guy a highlight. And I do this all the time in every painting. I love like not blending too much on my brush or on my palette. I like to just have a weird combo of colors happening on my brush. I just dip, dip, dab, and then maybe I'll do like a rough mix right there. And then I've got like fun little streaks that happen that I don't have a ton of control over. It's just there's white and then there's blue, and it just kind of happens. I love that. I think it's a lot of fun. And this painting is very much about playing and learning how you like to blend your colors, or how you like to shade, and what like different colors you can work together with, and it makes you go, ooh, that's cool, I like that. That's why I like doing paintings like this. And you can go back in, like I did, like this front layer is very cool tone, because I had a lot of blue in it, so that's why it's getting that dark teal. But you can go back in, I just grabbed some yellow on my brush, and you can highlight with yellow. There's no harm there. If you don't like it, you can go back in and grab some blue and throw some blue back in there. It's just fun to play. Now, I did mention in the beginning that we want some red. I would say the red is probably going to be like the very last thing you do. So don't feel like you need to add red right now. I want you to get to a place where you're like, I'm happy with this. I can tell all my leaves apart, but it needs something. Once you get to that space, that's a good time to add some red, and I'll show you how I like to do it. Let's see. I feel like this guy is so big, and he's the only one like that. I want to make another one big like that. So let's play around here. Don't be afraid to do this. I know you're looking at mine and you're like, but that looks almost done. Why would you change anything? Because I can. Because that's the whole part of creating. You're looking at this and you're like, oh, what do I like? What do I not like? How can I change what I don't like? So let's see, which ones can I make? I feel like this guy needs to be thicker. He feels a little awkward to me. So let's try to get a similar dark teal going. And I'm gonna make him a little chunkier. Yeah, that's cool. And then I'm gonna grab some dark blue and I'm just gonna streak some blue in here. I haven't done too much of just blue as a shadow, so I am gonna add a little bit more of that. Oh yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll grab a little bit more white to put that highlight back in up here. And see, these two now are overlapping. But that's fine because you see here how I made that one nice and light and kind of yellowy green instead, so you could still tell them apart. However, now I've got these two chunky ones, and now I feel like I need something to break them up. So, and this is just personal opinion. This is just, I'm creating this and I'm looking at it and that's what my brain thinks it needs. Doesn't mean that there's a right or a wrong. But I don't know what color, because I have a bunch of different colors. So I'm just gonna play around and see what happens. I think it needs like a swoopy guy there. Yeah, that looks cool. And do keep in mind, it's very similar to when we do our trees. You can go too far. So at some point you have to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm good. I'm happy with it. I'm done. Let's move on. Because you will kind of take that bridge too far at some point. Not too far from like an artistic perspective, because I don't think that that's a thing that exists. I don't think that there is such a thing as going too far or doing too much or doing, something wrong. It's just from a, do I still like this? Did this give me the desired result perspective? Okay. So I think I'm at the place where I'm going to start adding some red. If you're not there yet, it's fine. I'm going to grab some red, and now you can just do straight red. I know right here, I just used the blue, so it'll still be wet, and I can kind of use this red to create that purple vibe. So I'm going to try it, see what happens. I'm going to drag the red over here. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. But then I want to go to ones that I haven't used yet. I feel like this needs it. So I'm just going to pull some red in there. Cool. And let's see, maybe this guy. This guy wants a little bit of red. You can even kind of grab a little white with your red to really kind of, now white and red are going to make pink. But if you're just using a little bit to really make it stand out, if you want to, so that you look at it and you're like, oh wow, there's actual red in that painting. Otherwise, you can just let it be subtle on top of the green or on top of the blue, and it'll create that kind of purple vibe. It's really up to you, and play around. The worst thing that can happen is you don't like it, and then you have to wait for it to dry and paint over it. That's why I love acrylics. They're very forgiving. So I had some white and red on here. I don't know if you can fully see that. I'm gonna bring it closer so you can see all the variation in color. But see right here, I had white and red on my brush, and I didn't overly mix them. I just kind of let them exist together. But this will also really help. If there's an area where your leaves are kind of struggling to be separated, this will really help with the separation situation. Separation situation. That sounds like you're going to couples therapy. Now, I'm going to throw another thing out there. You can also take your red and you can take some yellow. I don't have enough yellow. You can make like a light orange if you use more yellow than red. And you can use that color if you want in some of your lighter leaves. So maybe I want a little kiss of this kind of ruddy orange in here. It's risky. You may not like it, but you can try it if you want to. If you try it and you don't like it, you can always take some white and just tone it down. And I always say, if you do something that you don't like, do it somewhere else on your painting so that it looks purposeful. Even if you don't like it, as long as it's not just that one spot, because then it's going to stand out like a sore thumb, especially to you if you're the one who doesn't like it. You're only going to notice that one thing that you did that you didn't like. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a leaf that's too wide for you, or we're painting flowers and one of your petals is bigger than the other, just go to another flower and make another petal bigger. Because if it's just that one spot, it's going to drive you nuts. But if it's in multiple places, you'll be like, yeah, I totally did that on purpose. I rocked it. Other artists may disagree with me, but that's how I feel about correcting mistakes, because there are no mistakes. All right, I'm not going to do too much of this because I'm not sure how much of this orange I'm really digging. But I have a little bit of it in there, so I wanted to throw it in. And then it's just like, take a look at it, take a step back, because you've been, looking at your canvas from 8 or 12 inches away for 48 minutes, and look and see if there's anything that isn't working for you or that you want to change. Personally, I just took a look at it and I said, this right here doesn't have enough definition for me. So I'm going to just give it a little bit more. That's it. This right here is really intensely standing out to me, and I want it to not stand out that much. So I'm going to go back and get some dark teal. And I'm going to make that highlight a little less noticeable. Maybe I still need a little bit more of it here. I'm like, just throw some color in there. Streaks of it. So like when I corrected here, I added some more white back in because I felt like this needed that definition, and then I grabbed some blue and streaked some blue in there just for funsies. But that's it. You're just going to play around. You're going to layer. And like I said, don't be afraid to go in and course correct stuff that you did earlier, because as you go through a painting, you get more and more comfortable, or the vision becomes more and more complete. So don't be afraid. This one right here that I added orange to, I don't like it. It's driving me nuts. So I'm going to try to make something a similar color to what it was, which is not easy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but let's see if I can do it. And I'm going to paint over my orange, like so. And if when you're like course correcting or getting some new stuff going that you needed to cover up for whatever reason, if you accidentally paint over the leaf that's supposed to be in front of it, no big deal. You're just going to grab a little bit and go over it so that it's now in front again. That's all. As long as you can tell that there are leaves in the back, leaves in the middle, and leaves in the front. That's what we're going for. That's all we could ask for. And you really could do this forever. Like, I mean, I could mix color and shade and shadow forever. So at some point I do have to stop, but I like it. These are the kind of paintings that are like those I need to clear my head mindless paintings, because who the heck cares what your leaves look like? Like, it's not like you're trying to look at an object and paint it. You are creating this plant. Who knows what it is? Who knows if you had a reference or not? It's not important. What's important is you can look at it and be like, oh, that was a fun little exercise, a fun little mental break, and I dig it. Or you look at it and you're like, I'm going to paint over this tomorrow, but this really did help clear my head. I love paintings like that. So that's it. We're finished. I do recommend you sign. Now, if it's a set of 3, I would personally just sign one, whichever one you're going to put at the, like, generally, like, the right side is where people sign, but I don't think that that's, like, a hard and fast rule. You can also just, like, sign the bottom or something, like the underneath or the back. What else? Oh, so something new. Because I did these 3 and I was, like, ahead of the game, I've painted for next week already. So I was going to show you. I don't know if that's exciting to anybody or not, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do next week. It's very different. I'll still post it on my Twitter, but my girl Becky showed me a picture with like teals and oranges, and I loved it. And so this is like very whimsical. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I enjoyed it. So this is what we're going to paint next week. It also took me more than an hour, so I'm going to have to figure out how to simplify it just a tad so that we can get this done for you in an hour's class. But yeah, so I will post that probably tomorrow or Tuesday and let everybody else know that that's what we're doing. Hopefully you like it. It's a little hot air balloon. My mom thought it was a light bulb, so it's not. It's a hot air balloon. And I'm rambling, so I'm going to go. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this Sunday. What else was I going to say? Oh, this class next week, next Sunday, we're going to paint that. But then I think we're going to take a break because I think the week after that is Gish. Let me check my calendar and make sure that I'm not missing a week. Yes. So next week, the 26th, we're going to paint that hot air balloon. And then the 2nd, we're not going to have class because it's Gish. And I don't know about you, but my team goes hard. So, all right, cool. So you have a little look into the next 2 weeks. We're doing a class and then we're taking a week off for Gish. I love you and I appreciate you. And I can't wait to see your artwork. You can post this single one or you can post a picture of all 3 of them together or 2 of them, whatever you did. I want to see it. Post it on my Twitter, tag me, whatever. I don't do social media. Okay, I'm gonna go. Love you guys. Thank you. Mwah. Bye.